So welcome to this session on JHipster 5. So I'm Julien Dubois, so I'm the creator of JHipster and still the lead developer of the project. I work for Ipon Technology, which is a French company, but we have offices around the world. And you can follow me on Twitter at Julien Dubois if you want to react to the talk.
My name is Deepu K Sasidharan. I'm currently the JHipster co-lead as well. I work for XebiaLabs. We are a DevOps company based out of Netherlands. You can also find me on Twitter.
Oh, and you forgot you wrote a book on JHipster.
Yeah.
That's really important. You should buy it
as well.
So a few words on JHipster. So it's more of an advanced session about the new things, but just to introduce JHipster for people who are not familiar with the project. So today we are clearly the most popular project in code generation and rapid development in Java. We have 12,000 stars on GitHub, which is quite a lot for
Java.
So it's not a Java project, in fact, because it's coded in JavaScript, but people see it as a Java project because we generate a Spring Boot project. We've got 1.5 million installation on NPM. NPM lost some data, but that's the minimum. We've got 20,000 application generation on our statistics, which are opt-in, so we don't gather everything, but that's the one we are sure of. We've got 250,000 users, according also to our stats per IP. We've got nearly 500 contributors and now 24 core team members, so people like us who have write access to the main repositories. Officially, we've got nearly now 300 companies using JHipster, so it's highly popular amongst companies also. And we have 70 plugins, so we will talk a little bit more about that later. So that's what is called modules or blueprints in JHipster, but we'll talk more about that. So it's highly popular. It's popular because you can do awesome things with JHipster. You can create, so that's the original goal, a monolith with everything in it. So you've got Spring Boot, Angular, cloud deployment, everything included. You can also generate complete microservices stacks. That's what Deepu will demo on the second part of this session. You can generate a domain model. You can model your entities. You will also see that with Deepu. You can generate your continuous integration and continuous deployment pipelines. So we support all the major ones. It's not this dual catalog.
We even added Azure recently. So
yeah. And you can deploy also to all the major cloud platforms like AWS, GCP, Heroku, Cloud Foundry, Docker, Kubernetes, OpenShift, Rancher, and we probably even forgot some of them. We'll talk more about that later because there's been some good work this year on those parts. But most of those deployments are done by the cloud companies themselves. Heroku is done by Joe Kotner, who works for Heroku and who's at the Heroku booth today. GCP is done by Red Song from Google, who is at the Google booth today. So it's like it's a common work with the cloud companies. So what's new? So originally it was only on JHipster 5, but as JHipster 5 has been released a few months ago, we're also talking about the new stuff we have released since version 5, which are also quite interesting. So we've got tons of new stuff, lots of new support on the front-end side, lots of work on the back-end side, lots of support on the cloud deployment side, and also lots of internal new stuff with the GDL v3 and the blueprints, and that will be the demo of Deepu at the end. Oh yes, I'm doing the easy part. I'm doing the slides, so I'm just clicking. It will always work. And Deepu is doing the demo, so he's taking the risk. So let's go through all of those new things. It's not all the new things, it's the most important ones. So the first important thing that we released with JHipster 5, it's a full support for React. So we've had excellent Angular support from the beginning. Well, it was AngularJS. Of course, we migrated to Angular when it went out. Now we've got full React support. It was a huge job, I don't know, maybe 1 year.
Yeah, almost a year.
Yeah, quite a lot of work. So it's the same support as Angular. Basically, you've got exactly the same app. We've even got the same test suite with the protractor. So it's really the same thing, but it's coded with another technology. So it's First of all, it's really good for people who want to use React instead of Angular, because that's a good option for them, of course. But then the interesting thing for people is that it works the same way. We have the same the same kind of thing with on the backend side. People love JHipster on the backend side because let's imagine you've got two teams, doing two microservices. There's one working with MongoDB, and the other one is working with MySQL. And what people like is that you've got the same programming model. The entities are modeled the same way as with the GDL. It works the same. On the front-end side, we now have the same thing with React and Angular. So that means if you are an Angular developer with JHipster, you can migrate to React very easily. And if in your company you've got the choice between the two technologies, teams can talk together because they use the same tooling, the same structure for the project. So it's really very important for people using both technologies together. Of course, we still have Angular support. We are, of course, on the latest release. We follow the release every time. So we are now with Angular 7, which is the latest one. We've got some good stats now. That's also one of the new things, by the way. So Angular is now 54% of all generated applications. Given our numbers, it's really a lot of projects. Out of if you want to have the 100%, we've got like 25% doing microservices, so they have no front end. We have maybe 5% of people doing monoliths without any front ends, which is a bit strange, but if they like it, they can. And we've got the rest of the people doing React, so it's maybe 10 or 15% of people doing React. So Angular is still the vast majority of people, so of course we still do a lot of work with it. One new thing we are working on is Vue.js support, because it's the third kid. The third cool kid. It's not finished yet, but it's very actively developed. So Deepu is working on it. And we've got a team of maybe, I don't know, five, six people. 5-6 very active people. It's the same thing as React. It's like a one-year job. But I guess
I think this will be a bit more fast.
Yeah,
because React was mostly just me and another 1 or 2 people. So
it looks like it's nearly a big part of it is already finished from what I saw. Yeah. So it's maybe it will only take I don't know 6 months. Maybe. Yeah, yes, it's not. It's faster. Yeah, it's maybe Vue.js is easier to use, or we are better, or both. So it's a blueprint. We will talk about it later. It's new stuff from our new version of JHipster. And of course, the goal is to have exactly the same thing as Angular and React. So we reuse some code, for example, Webpack configuration, the protractor configuration, which is good for us, but it's also good for you because, as I've just said, if you want to use different technologies in your company, well, it's very easy to shift because it works the same way. Webpack 4, so Webpack is used underneath, so Angular, React, and Vue. So we migrated to the latest version. We've got help from Sean Larkin from Webpack and that. We've got some really good experts on Webpack because Sandil from the JHipster team is also a team member of Webpack. So migrating to Webpack 4 gives a great performance increase, but that's thanks to Webpack 4. We've got now a common build for everything. And that's a question that often comes back. Why don't you use the default CLIs from Angular and React? So I don't know for React, but for Angular, we integrate with them.
Yeah, we at least provide partial support, but yeah.
So we work with them, so you can still use, at least with Angular, because I'm talking from the way I know, you can still use it. But our build has got better performance for big projects and for projects that add a lot of modules, because we go much further than what the CLIs does. So
and it's more fine-grained because the builds from React, Create React App or Angular or even the Vue CLI and everything, they are kind of made to work in a generic way so that it can support a lot of different kind of projects. So it's quite generic. It might have, say, loaders and stuff which are not probably required. So this is more fine-tuned for JHipster app and those kind of apps. That means we could remove unwanted loaders and stuff, increase the performance, do much further than what Angular CLI or React Create React App can do. So that's also one of the reasons.
Jest, so that's also one new cool thing on the client side. So we used to use Karma from the beginning, I guess. From the beginning. And Karma is still widely used by a lot of people. We migrated to Jest very early. Well, in fact, because of my second bullet point, the issue with Karma is that you needed to have Chrome, basically. And as JHipster is an NPM package, and Chrome is native code. You needed to download it all the time. You couldn't cache it. So when we were doing builds, it was very slow. It was failing on some C systems, typically on continuous integration systems, because they were lacking some libraries. So it was not Karma was not working very well for us. Migrating to Jest solves those issues because it's done purely in JavaScript. And it has the first point as an added bonus that we didn't expect. I mean, I didn't expect it to be that good. It's really, really faster. I don't have numbers, but it's like...
it's at least twice faster, I guess.
Oh yeah, more than twice. Yeah. Clearly, it's really, really faster. So we're very happy about that. And as a user, you get that for free when you migrate to JHipster 5. One of the big news we have, from JHipster 5 also, we added support for Prettier. So for those who don't know Prettier, it's like now the hugely popular tool for formatting your source code in JavaScript, TypeScript. So it's got now 3,000 GitHub stars, so it's really very, very popular. And for people doing front-end stuff, now it's a standard. I guess everybody's using it. We are very early, like very often with JHipster, we are earlier than most people, which is good for our users. Huh? We are hipsters. We find the trends faster than the others, and we give it to our users. So we've got support for TypeScript from the very beginning. We added JSON, CSS, SCSS. I think there are more coming. Like
we are planning for YAML, HTML, Angular HTML.
Everything.
Like that.
Yeah. So and this works on two parts, and that's important for my next slide. The first important thing is that it works on at generation time. So when we generate the project, we don't write your files directly. We pipe it to Prettier, so it ends up perfectly formatted by Prettier. It's really, really fast. You don't really see the difference compared to what we were doing before. But now the code is perfectly formatted when it's output by JHipster. So it's less work for us because we don't have to write everything perfectly. And for you, you always have perfect output. So for you, it's awesome. The second thing is that we add it as a git pre-commit hook. So when you change your code and you commit, your code is going to be automatically formatted. So it's really good for you. Well, if you don't like it, you can remove the hook. But most people keep it, so you can write very bad code. It will be committed perfectly well.
The idea is that you don't have to spend time or like effort on worrying about your code styling or code formatting, because Prettier will take care of you. Take care of that, and using it in the generation time, as well as we also add it to the generated projects as well. So that means you also have Prettier in your project as a dependency. So it's pretty good. I have been using it for a while and never had to worry about any fighting with your team about code formatting styles or stuff like that from then onwards.
Yeah, on the client side, clearly that totally won, and we thought it was really awesome. And of course, it would be really cool to have the same thing in Java, which is a bit complicated because Prettier is a JavaScript project. So passing Java code and using some JavaScript library to format it is quite hard. And so it would be really cool to have it. And the good news is that we're going to have it. So Prettier for Java is the official version of Prettier for Java. It was coding by Torben from Act, who is working for Apple now, and we are in very good terms with him. So last week he gave it to the JHipster organization. So now we own the code. Well, with him, he still owns of course his source code. So that brings something really amazing to Java because it did not exist in Java at all. First of all, it's much more than I didn't say that. It's not a beautifier. That's what people usually use in Java. Yeah. It passes the code, it understands the code, and then it prints it again.
It's basically an AST parser, so it's much better than a
it's an AST parser. Yeah. So it doesn't beautify your code. It reads it, and then dumps it again. So it's always perfect. And it's got some very clever algorithm for that, which are much more advanced than what a beautifier does. So that's why it worked really well in TypeScript, and hopefully it will be the same thing in Java. And as we already have it as a git pre-commit hook, you will have also your Java code perfectly formatted with a git pre-commit hook. Of course, you could do it with a Java beautifier, but if you use Java in a git pre-commit hook, your git commits are going to be quite slow. It's going to be very annoying. So it's a lot better to have this. It's much more faster. On our side also, for JHipster, it will simplify your templates. There are a few things which are very hard for us to format if we want to have a good output. Yeah. So it will ease our job quite a lot. You will also benefit from that, because if we spend less time formatting our code, we will have more time to do interesting stuff. Yeah. So that's also good for you. And of course, it offers perfect project generations, which is something we try to do, but we don't always do it, especially for the imports. For the imports, there are stuff we can do today. And with Prettier, there's an algorithm for that, so it's going to be just perfect. It's nearly finished, so I put 95% finished. I don't really know. It works like nearly on a JHipster project. There are like a couple of bugs, but that's all. Of course, always, it's like last percent, which is the hardest. So we need people on the project. We've got some very good people on the project, especially Shahar, who is the person who did Chevrotin. So it's a parser in JavaScript, and that's a parser we use to parse Java. So he's like probably the best guy to parse the code, because he's the one who coded the parser. And so we've got some very good people in that team, but we need more people and more code to test. So if you want to join, you're more than welcome.
The good thing is that this is not JHipster specific, right? So this is just Prettier for Java, so nothing to do with JHipster. The only thing is that we are trying to do it, use it with JHipster, so that we have a good use case to test it against and stuff like that. But this is very generic for Java, so you can use it on your own Java projects. It doesn't have to be anything related to JHipster. Yeah. That means you can try it, give us feedback, and like help us to make this really happen. That means we can finally have Prettier for end-to-end on Java projects.
Yes, it's good for all projects, not just JHipster. We basically took the project, Torben gave it to us basically because we got a good community, and we told him we would be good keepers of his code, because he wanted to step back from doing open source. So we told him we would take good care of his code, because we're a good community and we know to manage that. And we will do that. So we talked a lot about the front end. Well, Prettier was like a transition to the back end now. On the back end for JHipster 5, we migrated to Spring Boot 2.x, 2.0. It's another good reason to move to JHipster, because it was quite a good work. We spent quite a few weeks on that. We don't have yet support for reactive programming, with Spring Web Flux. It's led by Christophe Bornet, who is part of our team. You can, we've got some flags in JHipster. You can use the experimental flag to test it. So you will have new questions in the generator, and you will be able to run reactive code. It works on sample use case currently, and of course help is needed on that. There's still work to do basically on the entities on the client side. We have started to migrate to Spring Boot 2.1, which is awesome. There's lots of new stuff we want to have. And we also need to migrate to have JDK 11 support. So that's something we'll do as soon as we can. Currently, there's already work being done on that. But we'll need to wait a little bit anyway, because we need to wait for Spring Cloud to support Spring Boot 2.1. So when Spring Cloud supports it, then everything should be good for us. We are currently going to work with the milestone releases, so we will be ready when it goes out. Micrometer, I don't know if many of you have heard of it. It's a new monitoring library in Spring Boot 2. So it's very important, but monitoring should be very important for everyone. It's one of the big breaking change for us with Spring Boot 2.0. We still use Drop Wizard, which is very popular for monitoring. I still like it a lot because it's very stable, very battle tested. We know there's no trouble at all with it. But clearly, Micrometer is the future for two reasons. The first one, there's one person working full time on it and it's very good. And Drop Wizard basically have stopped, so there's more manpower. And the second thing is that, yes, it's more modern, better done. So clearly, it's the future. Migration is underway. I have a trainee at my company working on it, and we have also Pierre Besson from our core team, and who is also in my team at Ypon, who is working on it. It's nearly finished. There are quite a lot of technical issues, in fact, to migrate. They have been all solved, but we now need to write the templates and also the front-end code. We're also going to optimize a few things, so it's not finished, but should be finished soon. On the cloud side, lots of improvements. For Heroku, so Joe Kuttner, so from Heroku, did an wonderful job. Sorry, Joe. A wonderful job, because now if you do just git push, it works automatically with lots of improvement and fine tunings from the server side. I mean, from the Heroku side, it did not only work on JHipster. It also worked on the Heroku side to automate everything. So it's just probably our best option now for PaaS. It's awesome. For Amazon Web Services, we have had a beanstalk support from the very beginning, but it was a bit broken, and so it was fixed. And we have also added support for Amazon Fargate, which is a new cool stuff from Amazon. So that wasn't by my company, so thanks to my colleagues. We've got Google App Engine support from Google, also from people from Google App Engine. So there's got lots of hope on this one. I think it's going to be awesome also. And from Azure, we've got help from Bruno Borges, so from Microsoft. He just did documentation, and that looks like he did less work, but in fact it's because it's easier with Azure. It's because probably Azure is better done, so you just need to document stuff. I would still like to have a sub-generator to ease things, and also to have some statistics, because with the documentation we don't know who uses Azure, but it's also, well, you can also use JHipster with Azure now. So all those tooling were done by the cloud company, excepted Amazon, because that's a leader, so they don't need to. No, my company is a very good partner of Amazon, so that's normal. We've got also with JHipster 5 coming, already working Istio support. So Istio support was initially done by Google, by Great Song. We've got other people, especially from Pivotal, who came and who helped. So he's not the only one now working on this. We've got a basic but fully working Istio configuration, which you're going to show just afterwards.
I'll be demoing that. It's going to be cool.
So yeah, we basically do Istio because it's a new cool stuff, but for us it's mostly an alternative to what we already have. So we already have support for Eureka, for the whole Netflix stack, either with Eureka or Consul. Also from my point of view, it looks a lot to what Heroku provides, but as open source this time, so it's very interesting, but that's something we already do. It's interesting for one thing, is that now network failure, everything is going to be handled by the infrastructure, which is probably good, because those guys are better than developers for handling network failures. On the other hand, I'm not totally fan of it, because there are a lot of things that I do with Eureka, Feign, and Ribbon to optimize my errors. Sometimes got some business code here. I know when to retry because I know my business. And the guy from the infrastructure team has no idea if he can retry something because it's not in the app. Also, it's harder to develop on, because as a developer with the Netflix stack, I can do everything because I have access to everything on my laptop. With Kubernetes and Istio, it's not going to be the case. So for me, there's good things and bad things. And the good thing with JHipster is that we give you the option and you choose. And I'm not the one telling which is the best for you. One of the big new things with JHipster 5 is the blueprints. So we used to have modules, so it's extension to JHipsters. Blueprints go much further, and you have access to our own internal API, and you can extend what we do. So it's for people, like you've got a company, and your company, you have some, let's say, a different footer, a different way to configure your database, that kind of thing. And so you extend from our templates, and you don't override. You can override what you want to. Yeah,
like partially, you can partially override. You don't have to overwrite everything. You can just override what you need, and yeah.
And you can add also new questions. Yeah. So it's very, very powerful for companies who want to extend JHipster, but not break it. And that's something that everybody wanted to have. And currently, we already have 2 working examples. So JHipster Kotlin and Vue.js. So JHipster Kotlin, so next slide, it's a version of JHipster using Kotlin. So we changed the whole language. And for Vue.js, we changed the front-end side. So it's really powerful. If you want to have a look at what we do, so the JHipster Kotlin is basically our example for blueprints. It does tons of things. It's led by Sandil, who is one of your colleagues from Xebia and who is part of the core team. It's a work in progress, and it removes a big part of the Java code. We still keep some Java code, so it's really mixed. So while he inherits from our code, so sometimes he overrides stuff, sometimes he doesn't. Exactly what you would do in your company if you wanted to override JHipster. So it's a perfect example. Yeah. All right. Your turn.
Okay,
The art part.
time for a cool demo. Let's see some JHipster magic now. So we'll be doing this architecture today. And so it's a microservice. It will have a gateway application, which will handle security, your client-side app, customer service, Swagger APIs, and all those things. And you will have a product microservice, which handles the product service, order service, and stuff like that. Then you have an invoice microservice, handling invoice and shipments, and you have a notification microservice, handling notifications. So this is kind of like an e-commerce application architecture. So we'll be using Istio as our service discovery, circuit breaking, traffic management, all cool microservice stuff. And monitoring will also be provided by Istio using Prometheus, Grafana, tracing with Jaeger and service graph. So all this part will be provided by Istio. And also the ingress gateway will be handled by Istio, and all the applications will be provided, generated by JHipster. You can see that all of the applications have their own database. One of them have a MongoDB database. The others all have a MySQL database. And each of the microservice will have a Envoy proxy as a sidecar to this. So this is the architecture that we are going to create, and we are going to deploy it to a Kubernetes engine. So yeah, normally this is something that you would do in a few months, I would say. So how long do you think this architecture will take to create and deploy? Any numbers? Quite easy to guess. We have like 25 minutes left for the talk. So 10 minutes? Okay, let's try 10 minutes. So yeah, I have to talk in a little bit as well. That's why it will take more than, if I'm not talking at all, then probably I can do it in 5-10 minutes, yeah. So there are some references. So you can refer all the, so we'll be using something called JDL. It's a domain language for JHipster. It's our own DSL for defining applications, your entities, deployments, all sort of stuff. So JDL is something that we are trying to make the future of JHipster, so that you can have something like, scaffolding as code. So you already have everything as code, right? DevOps as code, you have infrastructure as code. So you can also now scaffold as code described in a DSL. So it's kind of cool, right? So you have the JDL in this particular URL, Google URL. This is the JDL that I'm going to use. If you want to try it out later, you can check this out. You have the reference in this URL as well in the website. You can also use the JHipster JDL Studio to visualize that as well. So let's see what we have. So with JDL, this is how you'll define an application. It's quite straightforward, nothing complicated about it, right? It's you have base names, so you have an application type. So from the documentation, you can clearly see what are the supported properties and what are the supported values. So just mix and match. Sometimes some options might not work, but it's quite common sense to know what kind of options will work to them. And if you're already using JHipster, you pretty well already know that what kind of options work with JHipster. So, so this is the application. So this is the store application, and this is the notification application. You can see the difference. The store is defined as gateway, whereas notification is defined as a microservice. And the sample, they say that they have Eureka, but I'm not going to use Eureka. I'm going to use Istio for that. So let's look at our JDL Studio code. I think I have it open somewhere. Yeah, I'm gonna.
Oh, by the way, I didn't update it.
Sorry?
I forgot to.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm using the older version. So,
okay.
Yeah. So we have this.
He's using the release from yesterday, and I forgot to merge the code for the for the studio.
I made backup plans. So.
Yeah.
This is the store application that we have. I'm not going to go into too much details because I want to finish in time. So you can definitely check this out and like try it out. I will also publish a blog post explaining this in detail as well. So. We have the store application, we have the product microservice, and they both use JWT authentication. I mean, all the application is going to use JWT authentication, and these applications use MySQL as the database. They have Hasselcast cache. Everything is using Gradle, and the gateway is using React as the client frameworks. It uses SAS. It has protracted test and everything. And you can see service discovery is disabled here. Same here, no service discovery, JWT, MySQL, Hasselcast, Gradle, and a different port, of course, because you want You don't want port conflicts, right? Then you have the invoice microservice, which again uses JWT, MySQL, and Gradle with a different port. And you have the notification microservice. Again, same for service discovery and authentication. But the database is MongoDB here. And you don't need a cache and the Hibernate cache for MongoDB, so those are disabled as well. Again, we use build tool, and you can see for each of the application, we specify some entities. For this, we say this uses all the entities, because in a JHipster architecture, your gateway also hosts all your front-end stuff. So that's also your client apps, right? So you need the client side code for all your entities generated on your gateway as well. That's why we specify all entities belonging to this application. And JHipster is smart enough to know when to skip the server-side generation when it finds an entity that belongs to a microservice. We'll see about that here. Here are some entity declarations, quite straightforward JPA-ish kind of entity declarations. We have property, type, and some validation rules. You can define enums, then you can define relationship between entities. It's again JPA-ish kind of things. You have some options, like say for example here we are enabling service class for all our entities and pagination for all our entities. So these are the entities for the gateway, and these are the entities for the product. We have quite a lot of them, and the relationship for them, and again options. This is kind of a special option. So for microservices, you always have to specify which entities belong to which microservice. This is how JHipster knows when to skip server-side generation for the entities. We have the entities for the invoice here and notification here, right? So this is the application and entity configurations. So let's switch back to our slide. I think here. Yeah, this is taking time. So we'll be deploying this to Google Kubernetes Engine today. So there are some prerequisite that is required. So you need to have a project. So these are the commands that you would use. I'm not going to do these parts because this normally takes some around 15 to 20 minutes to create a project and a cluster. So I have already pre-created these. So you also need to create a GKE cluster with at least minimum of 4 nodes with N1 standard 2 machine type, because we have around 4 applications and all the Istio stuff, Grafana, Prometheus, and all those things. So you need a little bit of resources to run these things, right? And you have to set your credentials for your kubectl with that. So I already have a cluster called Hello Hipster created with a cluster size of 4. You can see there is it has 8 virtual CPUs and 30 GB of RAM. These are the 4 node pools for that. Then for Istio, you have to install Istio. Please use version 1.0.2 because the latest version 1.0.3 has some issues with connecting to MySQL. So probably there is a bug for that. So for this particular one, I'm using 1.0.2, which works perfectly fine. So you have to install Istio and export it into your path. Then you have to install Istio into your cluster. So once you have created a cluster, you have to kubectl apply these 2 files, one for CRDS templates and another one for the Istio demo YAML, so that all your Istio related configurations are created on your cluster. Grafana, Prometheus, Service Mesh, Jaeger, and everything is installed on your cluster, and everything is ready. And once you do this, you can get the Istio ports, and you can also get the Istio's ingress service IP. So by doing, so let's say kubectl get services Istio system. So Istio system is the namespace for all the Istio stuff that we have deployed. So from this, you need the IP of the ingress gateway. So because this is going to act as our gateway for our entire stack. So you need the external IP, and this is our external IP. You need this for our further configurations. So you need to have this IP. So export it or keep it somewhere, copy it. So I have already deployed the Istio related stuff to the cluster. So these are all the Istio stuff. You have the Istio Citadel, Egress, Galley, Pilot, Policy, Sidecar Injector, and everything. Tracing, Prometheus, Service Graph, everything.
Is it really a lot easier than a Eureka?
So
I can tell you it's going to cost you a lot more money, at least.
The idea is that do everything in Kubernetes natively. So now we will define our deployment in the JDL. So let's switch back to our JDL. So here, we have the deployment also defined here. So it's a Kubernetes deployment, and we have to deploy all these applications. This is my Docker repository name where I'm going to push my images. You have service discovery disabled here as well because we are going to use Istio. Istio is enabled with auto injection mode. You can also do manual injection as well if you want to do it manually, but we would like to do it automatically, so auto injection. We are going to generate some Istio routes for gateway and everything. So if you're doing Istio, the Kubernetes service type, normally you can do load balancer or cluster IP, but if you're doing Istio, you have to use ingress. It only works with ingress. Yeah, and we are using a JHipster namespace for Kubernetes so that it is easier to manage. And the Istio domain, right? The Istio, external IP of the ingress gateway that we found here, that has to be used here with a nib.io suffix. So nib.io is a service which gives you a domain name, a DNS domain name for any IPs. So you can use this, you can prepend any IP to this, and it will resolve to this particular domain name will resolve to that IP. So it's a quite useful service. So let's switch back. So you can start your timer if you want, if you really want to see how long does it take. So these are the magic commands that I'm going to use. So let's switch back to my, okay. I'm going to create a new folder, Devoxx Istio. So I'm going to download this. Oops, not this one. Yeah, I'm going to download this to my workspace, temp. Where's my Devoxx Istio? Yeah, I'm going to call it, say, app.jdl. Go back to my. So we have our app.jdl here. So I'm just going to run JHipster import JDL and app.jdl. So this is going to generate all the applications that we defined in our JDL, everything in parallel so that it's faster. It's going to install. Otherwise, you have to wait for like your npm installs to fail. Do one by one. You can also do it parallel in series by just passing an -- interactive flag. Then everything will run in series. Otherwise, by default, it will run in parallel. So it will. So it has generated all the applications. Now it is running all the npm installs parallelly for all the applications. And once that is done, it will generate our deployment files. So.
By the way, so it generated 4 applications with Prettier, everything we talked about. In
4 applications with all the entity models and everything.
In like 3 seconds, and npm is taking some time, that's all.
Yeah. So let's look at what we have. So you can see we have the store application generated here, with all the Webpack stuff, your client app here and everything. You have the product microservice, which doesn't have any client-side code, only Java code here, tests and everything. Everything has tests, of course. A notification microservice, your invoice microservice, right? And all the Kubernetes manifests for all these applications as well. So you can see manifest for, say, for example, store. You have secret files. You have your deployment descriptions. This is a destination rule for Istio. So this is also created. And this is the Istio gateway that is created. You can see your gateway exposes. Where are these? Yeah. So your gateway exposes these particular URLs. So your invoice is exposed, notification, product, and by default it posts to store. And this is your URL for your gateway, right? And your MySQL stuff, your services, and Istio virtual services. So this will be there for all your applications as well. So for invoice, for notification, we have the same. For notification, you can see we have MongoDB manifest as well generated. And you also have a namespace created here and a handy script to apply everything in one course to make it a bit more easier, right? And you have a README explaining everything as well, the commands that you have to do manually and stuff like that. So let's see if everything is done here. So next is kubectl apply. But before that, we have to build and push our images. So building everything with Docker and pushing them is normally going to take like around 5 minutes. But I want to show you what is deployed and what is cool, because you can do it anytime. So I have already done this and pushed the images. So I have built and pushed these images already. So I'm going to use that existing images to save some time, because we don't want to just see it being built. It's going to build the same
That's how
thing,
you
right?
do it so quickly.
Yeah. I can still do it in 5 minutes, but that means I'm wasting 5 minutes just building this, where I can show you Jaeger or like Grafana in that time. What do you prefer, to build this or to see the cool stuff? Nobody wants to see it building, right? So I'm just going to skip the building part. I'm just going to do the kubectl part. Let's go here, cd, Kubernetes, right? So it's going to create the namespace. It's creating all our services, the Istio rules and everything. So everything is being deployed. Let's watch this.
By the way, what takes time when building is mostly the test, because we have a huge test coverage for the project.
The build, Gradle build will run all the tests, the front-end test, back-end test, everything, then do the Docker builds.
And that's awesome to have excellent test coverage, but of course it takes time.
So things are being started. Let's go back to our slides. So normally when the generation finishes, you'll get some handy instructions about what to build and what to push. So the normal workflow is you build each of your applications, then you push all those images, and then you apply kubectl apply, right? So that's how you would normally do. So still running. Let's go. So once this is ready, we would need our IP address. So as I said already, you can say, for example, you can do export. So you can get the kubectl ingress gateway IP using kubectl from the Istio system namespace, and you can put in a variable or something. So I have done this, and then let's see if our services are up. They are still starting, so they are running, but you can see they are not ready yet because there are 2 checks. Only 1 check has passed. That means we still have to wait for both the checks to be completed before seeing our application. So it's going to take 1 or 2 minutes. Our store is up already. So our product just came up. So we only have to wait for our notification. Yes, it's up. So we can do. So I have already stored my IP. So you have to prep and store because it's going to be exposed under this subdomain. And I'm adding the nip.io so that I can get a fake domain name. So here's the application running in Istio. So let's sign in using the default credentials, which is admin. Right, so we have all our entities. So you can see all our entities are being generated. So only customer belongs to this application. Every other entity belongs to microservices. But the UI is generated in the gateway because we follow a gateway pattern, right? So we have the product, we have notification, we have invoice and stuff. Let's create some stuff. Let's create a product category, name Devoxx. It's done. That means it went through our microservice. It has created it in the database. Let's do one for notification as well to see the difference. See here, it's running in MySQL. That's why we have a long ID. Whereas a notification,
we need something easier.
Sorry?
Yeah.
So this has created the object as well in MongoDB, and you can see say from the identifier because it's used as an UID for MongoDB, right? So This proves that our microservices are working fine, so I'm not going to go into details. Of course, you have all the cool administration screens as well. You have users, you have cool metrics from Drop Wizard, which we are migrating to Micrometer now. We are planning to have the similar UI at least. You have health monitoring, configurations, audits, and dynamic logs, which you can turn on, turn off, and everything dynamically. You also have multiple languages and stuff. You can enable choose between our 30 plus languages that we have.
I don't know many
a lot more than 30 we have.
Oh, yes,
so you can choose any of those languages. And your account management stuff is here. So it's a traditional JHipster app. So nothing more to see here, because it's standard what we have been showing for quite some time now, right? So this is the app. So now the interesting part. So Istio also gives you monitoring and observability. Monitoring, tracing, and observability. So let's look at our. Let's look at. No. So we are going to do Grafana. Okay, it's much faster for me to just copy paste it. So we are doing a port forward because, as you saw, let me show you. As you can see here, only the ingress gateway is exposed with an external IP. Everything else only has a cluster IP, so you can't directly access anything else, and which makes sense. If you're monitoring, you only want to do it internally. You don't want to expose it to the public, right? So that's why we are port forwarding to access Grafana, Prometheus, everything from your local system. So it forwards the ports to my local IP. Let me go to, so it's on 3000. Let's go to localhost 3000. So this is our Grafana dashboard from Istio. So you can go to, say, for example, let's say service dashboard, and you can see stats. Let's choose our store application, for example. You can see cool stats for all the applications, and you can choose between your databases, applications, and everything here. It's cool, right? So the Grafana dashboard uses the log data, which is scrapped by Prometheus. You can also directly go to Prometheus. So this is the Grafana one. Let's also look at Prometheus. Let's port forward Prometheus now. So it's on 9090, forwarding to 9090. Let's look at so this is the Prometheus dashboard, where you can find all your metric stuff. Let's say, for example, store, for example. So you can see the metrics or logs being scrapped. So this is what Grafana uses for the dashboard. What more can you see from this? Let's see. So that's about monitoring and logs, and this is what we saw. For observability, there are two options. You have Jaeger for distributed tracing and service graph. Let's look at Jaeger. So Jaeger is a distributed tracing application similar to Zipkin, if you're familiar with it. Something happened. Okay. So this, again, I'm going to port forward this to 16686, which gives Jaeger, localhost 16686. So Jaeger is quite cool because you can do, say, for example, from ingress gateway, we can find all the traces that happened. So let's go, for example, on our store here, and let's sign in. let's go to a product category, right? Now, if you go back to this and find your traces, you see the latest trace, store, and if you expand it, you can see how the transfer went, right? Say, for example, let me, I think, sorry, this is not the latest one. Sorry. I think it is not updated yet. Yeah, this was the latest one. Sorry, yeah. So you can see from ingress gateway, it went through product, from product to Istio policy to mixer. So you can see the entire trace path, right? So it's extremely useful when you have a microservice architecture to know what exactly happens in your system. So this gives you that. The last one is service graph, so which is also cool to visualize how your services are communicating with each other. I hope this is the right one. Service graph, yes. So it's on 88. Right, so this shows you how your applications are communicating. It's a graph. You can play around. You can click and see what's happening. Say, for example, and what requests are being forwarded there. What's the status of that? All those things you can see there. I'm sorry I had to go so fast.
No, but you did everything.
Yeah, showed you everything. Perfect. Time up. So yeah. Yes. So you can.
Congratulations, because it was awesome. Everything worked.
So
it always works. So yeah. I'm not surprised.
So everything worked for surprisingly. Normally something would fail. They have to go through. So
I never see it failing.
Yeah.
But that's the first time I see it.
Yeah.
No, so if you, well, thanks a lot for your attention. If you want to join us, we've got tons of stuff on GitHub, Twitter, Stack Overflow, and so on. We are always happy to have new contributors and users, of course. So really don't hesitate to join. We've got now nearly 500 people who contributed, so anybody can. We try to be friendly with everybody.
Yeah. So did it in 10, 15 minutes? Not bad.
Yeah.
Thank you.